this is my review of Death Note. Okay, so things pick up a lot in this episode, and it seems like the end, but no, it's very close to being the end. But the main thing is that L finally gets some concrete evidence that he needs to actually find Kira. So and that's where it becomes interesting. So Light and Ram actually strike up an agreement. Ram will kill L for Light, but in exchange she has to do what he says and when he says to do it, because she can't just die. He can't just die out of the blue unless he's absolutely sure. So he has to make sure that he's able to actually kill L, especially since L hasn't exactly gone public yet. So he has to make it look like an accident or something. He needs to think of a plan. And then, to keep in contact with Ram, he asks for Misa's cell phone number, which he happily supplies. But also makes it very clear that it needs to be a phone that L can't actually bug, since as he points out, they'll be able to bug it. So she gives him a spare phone that she has with or that already has her contact information in it. And sure enough, uses this information to basically they exchange phones with one another, but and then Light asks Misa to go home since he needs to be alone to think. But Misa doesn't want to go home and starts rambling about how they should go on a date since the night is still young. But Light kisses her to make her shut up and go home, and it works. So at which point Ryuka comments about the fact that Light kissed her, and Light points out that he kind of just did that to shut her up, basically, and also pointing out that because of that he's able to take one step closer to actually killing L, even though he remarks that basically becoming L's friend was always his endgame. Basically, he was going to try and get as close to L as possible so that he could eventually kill him, and it kind of worked. And sure enough, the next day he goes on a date on a quote unquote date around campus with Kiyomi, and surprisingly runs into L, who's been examining some hair samples. The reason for that becomes a little bit relevant later, but more specifically, once Kiyomi leaves, Light and L have a bit of a discussion, and L points out that he kind of suspected that he would die in the next few days if Light was in fact Kira, and has already ordered the task members to actually assume the worst and take Light in for custody should anything happen to him. So Light quickly realizes that he's now in a bad situation, because if he doesn't in fact successfully kill L, it's going to look suspicious. But now he's unable to, since L counteracted his only method of actually killing him. So it's gonna be very, very interesting. But in any case, as Light and L are talking, L mentions that they also haven't hung out in a while, as well as actual people, and Light volunteers to buy him some stuff at the cafe, since L openly admits himself that he was craving a shortcake. But as they're on their way over to the cafe, Misa actually shows up out of the blue and decides to pay Light a visit, pointing out that she missed him and she had a photo shoot nearby, so she figured why not. And sure enough, Light both realizes that it's a bit problematic that Misa is there, but also a bit fortuitous, because now he knows L's real name, and sure enough begins to scheme about how to get L's name from her. And sure enough, the two introduce, and Misa is a little bit confused because she's able to see Light's L's real name, and she knows that the name he gave her and the name that she's seeing aren't the same. So she quickly figures out that something is up. But she and L immediately hit it off, and also she summons a bunch of fans, which L immediately takes advantage of for reasons that are revealed later. But it makes it feel like but for the time being, they make it seem like he just kind of felt her up without her noticing, and then claimed that such an outrage would not stand, and claims that he will find the person personally responsible. But in case, Misa's manager eventually shows up to pick Misa up, and pointing out that she's going to be late for another photo shoot, and she leaves. At which point they can, Light and Elle continue on their excursion to the cafe. But Light excuses himself, claiming he's going to go to the bathroom, when in actuality he's going to call Misa and get her the name Elle's name from her. But this winds up backfiring when it's revealed that Elle, during his feeling up of Misa, he actually pickpocketed her phone, and now he has it. And sure enough, Els points out that is quick to recognize Light's voice, and also Light points out that it's Misa's phone, Elle immediately gives it back. And sure enough, they continue to go on their way, and Light still thinks he has an advantage because she has another phone that Elle doesn't know about. But what actually happens is that Elle gets a call from headquarters a few minutes later, revealing that they've actually taken Misa into custody. So Elle basically wins here. He takes Misa into custody, and since she is indeed the second Kira, he has enough evidence to convict her. As between the fact that she's killed people and the fact that he has hair samples from the tapes, he has a pretty solid case to build against her. So it's a little bit difficult for Light to squirm out of this. And sure enough, he has her brought into confinement, and then tells Light immediately what happened. And then he goes back to headquarters, where he can then interrogate Misa, whom he's locked up and tied up in a padded room with a straitjacket and blindfolded her. So yeah, Elle's idea of confinement is a little bit different than other people's. So, and then orders Watri to do whatever it takes within legal constraint until she finally talks. But after 3 days of confinement, she still doesn't talking. Even begs Elle to kill her, when in actuality she's talking to Rem. And Rem outright refuses, but she realizes that she does indeed love Light, and realizes that the only way to actually save her, as it were, is to actually have her forfeit the rights to the Death Note, which she agrees to. At which point Rem returns to Light and tells him what happened, and also points out the condition that she had, which is that Misa forfeited the rights to the Death Note on the grounds that if Light does nothing to save her, she will immediately kill him dead. And sure enough, Light, realizing that he's most likely going to be taken into custody pretty soon because of his connection to Misa, quickly realizes that the only way to get her out is to also forfeit his right to the Death Note. So, and sure enough, says goodbye to Ryuk, implying that's what he's thinking. So yeah, overall, Light thinks he's won, but in actuality, there's actually a couple of contingency plans put in place. Namely, that Misa was able to forfeit her right to the Death Note, and was actually able to remove her memories, since when you forfeit a right to the Death Note, you also lose your memories of having owned a Death Note, and so which means that now one of his suspects knows nothing, and Light is planning to do the same, which means that now Elle is back to having no leads. So yeah, Elle kind of both won and lost, because on the one hand he did indeed find exactly who Kira is, and he also found the second Kira and tortured her until she talked. I'm still a little uncomfortable with that, but he thinks he won, but in actuality he hasn't won. They forfeited their rights to the Death Note, and therefore their memories of the Death Note, which means he's back at square one, since now his actual suspects have no memories of actually doing anything illegal with the Death Note. So now he basically has nothing. So yeah, it's a bit of a problem there. On the one hand, it opens up an interesting idea for the show, which is that now Light is going to be operating without his memories, but it also leaves them without an actual killer, since there's actually, since now there's no actual Kira anymore, because I mean, there is the possibility that Elle will most likely realize that he's caught the right people once the killings stop, but it's a little iffy. it's going to be a little iffy going forward. So I'm interested to see how they actually continue with this. As while they don't have actual physical memories, they do have more than enough evidence to convict. So it's just a matter of how are they going to get out of this and when. But in any case, yeah, that's my review of Death Note. What did you guys think? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below, or over on my Discord server, link in the description. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, be sure to follow me on Facebook and on Twitter in the description below. And also, be sure to check out my Patreon in the description below as well. It's only a couple bucks a month. It really helps me out, and you guys get access to a bunch of cool perks that I'm always saying thanks. So be sure to check those out in the description below as well. But in any case, thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace!